go to middle school, and then high school. In Hong Kong, you will have like first 3 years of it can be like kindergarten or nursery schools, and then you will go to like 6 year of primary schools, and then you will go to 6 years of secondary schools, and that is how our education system works, like compulsory education system works. And one thing about Hong Kong is we have a lot of examinations throughout our public school career. And at the end of our public school career, there's something called the Diploma of Secondary Education, Hong Kong, like public exams. And that is like the biggest test or biggest exam that you have to take for your that can determine what you do in your future, either going to university or like go to the job market. And that exam is like a month and a half long. um so and Hong Kong music education system is kind of like a tricky one. It's kind of interesting in some way because like a lot of parents, they're very open-minded and they really want the student, like their kids, to take private lessons, no matter if that is like piano or other class or other musical instruments. But in school, the music education system is like music is compulsory from primary one all the way to secondary three. So it's 9 years of compulsory music classes. But those classes are very like textbook driven. So you have like textbook since like primary one, and we use like Kodai and all. They are very oriented in the primary school music classes, at least from what my experience is. And usually teachers are not specialized in music. They can be like teaching English or teaching mathematics, and then teach music classes as well. So they are not like specifically trained in music. And choir, orchestra, and band they consider as extra curriculum, but in the States they are considered as electives. So that is the difference. And the last thing is like because like choir, orchestra, and band they consider as extracurriculum, and there are not much music classes that the school can provide. A lot of parents, they will spend money for the kids to take like music lessons outside of school, and piano is like kind of like a must. And nowadays usually students can play like more than two instruments in Hong Kong, and they usually take like a grade exam. I don't know if you know a grade music exams from Associate Board of the Royal Schools of Music, which is like a British system, like a graded system. Like they have 8 grades that you can go through. You don't have to take all 8 grade to be master, but they have like some sort of curriculum for you to have kind of like a motivation to get to the next level. And that is like like a very brief introduction about Hong Kong music education system and how that like compare with the U.S. Is there any questions in the house by far? Yes, Garrett.
Uh,
Sorry, not to Shepherd.
you're good, Joseph. So this is specifically with regards to the public education, right? This is not private schools.
No, not private school.
Okay, and so I assume that there might be some private schools somewhere in China that have perhaps choir as a curriculum or music, like music schools. You do you have that?
In international school, yes, I
Okay,
would say yes.
okay,
But in private school, even though it's private school, they are still kind of like under the like it's complicated. It's kind of like they are so-called private school. They you have to pay tuition, but you're still under the umbrella of
oh,
the public school system.
yeah,
Like they will still get funding from from the
PCC.
city, from Hong Kong, from
Okay,
the education bureau.
okay,
So choir, orchestra, and band they still consider extracurriculum. So you stay after school to do those things.
okay.
Does it make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
But international school, yes, choir, orchestra, band, they will be like a class that you can take or an elective that you can take.
And then
Thank you for the.
yeah, I just have one more question. So you've mentioned that, teachers are not usually specialized. So for instance, if you are a biology or a math teacher, you can go teach music if you want to. I mean, if you have the ability to. You don't have to go and get a music education degree to go teach music in the public school, correct? Okay.
No, you don't need it. Like I
Okay.
remember my teachers when I was in my secondary school. My teacher, she's a Chinese teacher, and then she of course have a music. Like she have a music degree. In secondary school, usually you need a music degree to teach music, but you still need to teach other classes, other subjects
Uh,
like Chinese. In the primary school, I remember one teacher was teaching like English, and then she doesn't have a music degree, but she teach percussion band, and she did really well, but she doesn't have a music degree.
yeah.
So it's kind of interesting in that way in Hong Kong music education system. And that is like a brief review, brief introduction about Hong Kong music education system. And I want to get into the juicy part, which is my studies when I was in my graduate studies. And this is what I have a questions. I have a hand. Yes.
I was just going to ask, in Hong Kong or in different countries, how important is music to students and to parents? Like in America, in the South, sports are taken extremely serious, and parents want to push their kids to do sports. How important would you say that music is to students and to parents in Hong Kong?
So despite the school system itself is not like really appreciating, or it's not like upholding like you really need art. It's very like STEM driven, like science, mathematics, and English also very important. Like languages is very important in Hong Kong. Like student can speak like English, Chinese, Mandarin Chinese, Cantonese, Chinese, or other languages. They are able to speak really well, and they are really well in mathematics and such. But the school system itself is not upholding that, like, oh, art is very important or music is very important in school. But because the competitive, because like being like getting into university is very competitive, and if you want to go to a good school, it's very competitive. So students usually will force their kids to either get to sport, get to music, and music is like a big thing in Hong Kong. For if you know how to play multiple instrument, that will help you to get into a good school, good secondary school. So I would say that like Hong Kong, at least before you get to college, the parents really emphasize or really think that music education is very important in some way, like compared to the state, which like sometimes when I'm teaching in school, helping a student to get a PE waiver to get them into choir is very hard, and it takes a lot of time. And I understand why, because like sport is big here, and it's kind of like a big thing. So I hope that answer your questions. Like at least I know Hong Kong is like, and Japan music education system. Basically, they do respect the music teacher very much. That those band students, they can pay really well, and like if you are in band, in orchestra, in choir, you'll be in band, in orchestra, in choir for like their life. They won't do any sport because their teacher won't allow them to do any sport. So if that like answer your questions, and which is like a dream for us, as a music teacher. All right, let's get to the juicy part. So another like the second half of the presentation, I want to focus on like the Chinese language, Chinese dictions, and like some Chinese choral music because that is like my passions, and I'm so happy to share that with you. So when we're talking about Chinese, or when we're talking about like diction, it's very important to know like some basic about the phonological structure, about the language itself. So a Chinese language is a monosyllabic tonal language that each Chinese character consists of a combination of vowels and consonants. And we have to really understand the structure before we talking about some specific characteristic of both Mandarin and Cantonese. So you can see a graph in front of you. By the way, this word right here, 中文, which means Chinese. The phonological structure of each syllable consists of a nucleus, vowels nucleus, which we call 字腹, which is the stage that you sustain the sound, which is like r, o, e, and it can be sometimes a monophone, r, o, e, i, u, u, or it can be a diphthong, I or a, those things, or even sometimes it can be a triphthong. And it is preceded by an onset 字頭 consonant onset, which is the stage of initiating the sound. Where am I? Sorry. And the 字頭, which is the onset, can be a single consonant or a consonant with a glide, like sy, like s, or like sometimes zero consonant onset is also possible. And it will, like after the vowel nucleus, it will followed by a coda consonant, 字尾, and it is the stage that you end with the sound. And every syllables carry a tone in both Mandarin and Chinese, and we will talk about like how interesting that is in the coming slide. So when we are talking about Mandarin Chinese, there's like different ways to like transcribe or like your Chinese into a different system. What I used in my research is using Yale romanization of Mandarin, which is a system that created by the Yale sinologist during the World War II when the U.S. soldier was deployed to China. But it is not commonly used around the world. The one that they use right now is called Pinyin, which is the one that created by the Chinese government in the 1950s. But why I use this Yale romanization? Because this is created for English speaker, so this makes more sense to English speaker. For this, I want to like talk about like how we can use like the 字頭字腹字尾, the phonological structure, and how's that work. For the word here, 向, which like means direction. Here I split that into 3 parts. The starting part is the consonant onset, and it have the S sounds with a glide y. So this one considered as the beginning stage of creating a sound, and then it will continue with holding a R sound. And usually when you're speaking Mandarin, you have to speak it more like a forward sound. So instead of like a British way to say it have to be a little bit more forward. And at the end, it will end with ng, which is that is the coda, the consonant coda. And combining all of this is xiang. And one interesting thing to note is that when you are having when you're seeing ng at the end, you will not put any shadow vowels like at the end of the word like English. When for example singing or sing, ng will put like a vowels at the end, like a shadow vowels at the end to make that word are more understandable. But in Chinese, we don't do that. Like no one will sing this word. For example, let me pick a note. The a the xiang. No one will do that. Instead of that, you will do the sy very quickly, and then you mostly sustain on r, and at the end you just like close it to ng. That is how we do like Mandarin Chinese. And how is that different than the Cantonese Chinese? This word right here, ba, and this is like a totally different system called Yue Ping, which is a system that created in Hong Kong. Right here, ba mean 100, and here the beginning is b, and then like you see 2a, which is a long sound. If you have one a only, it's a short sound. Ba. Oh, sorry, Amber Alert. Amber Alert. Sorry. So here and then at the end, the k sound, it is considered as an entering tone, which is a glottal sound that we make. Thank you for that laugh face. Thank you for that. And P, T, and K, they are all considered as entering tone, which is a glottal sound that you make. You don't really like say that, like you won't say bak. You will say ba, ba. You just like close that. You don't say k sound out. And that is the phonological structure of the Chinese written Chinese. And you might ask me, oh, you're talking about Cantonese Chinese, Mandarin Chinese, this is so confusing. And right now I'm going to tell you what's the difference in between. Mandarin Chinese is usually the Chinese, the spoken Chinese that they speak in the northern China. And later on, they use that as the standardized Chinese, and they speak around the country of China. And Cantonese is they consider as the dialect, but I consider as the language that you speak in the southern China. And a lot of time when you're in Chinatown, usually you will hear a lot of Cantonese speakers speaking, because like they are the first generation getting out of China and migrating to overseas. So in Malaysia or like Indonesia or like a lot of Chinatown in the US, you will hear a lot of Cantonese speaker in those areas. And the biggest difference in between Cantonese and Mandarin is the sound system. In Cantonese, we call like 9 sounds and 6 tone, which we call 九聲六調. And when we call 6 tones, it's excluded the checked tone, which is the B, T, and K sound. Those glottal sounds, we don't consider it. So, and it's very interesting. When you're thinking about like speaking the number system in in Cantonese, it presented the 9 tones, which will be 3, 9, 4, 0, 5, 2, and then the last part is 7, 8, 6, which is the glottal sound that you can hear. I will say it one more time. 3, 9, 4, which is like the highest tone, middle tone, 0, 5, 2. And then the last part is 7, 8, 6, which you see 3, 9, 4, 0, 5, 2, and 7, 8, and 6. If we exclude, don't like consider those like glottal sounds as one of the tone system that we have, then you see here, using SI as an example with those 6 tones, C means poetry. C means history. C means try. C means time. C means market. C means be or is. So the tone itself is very subtle. And sometimes you can land into hot water if you sing something that is like very close to inappropriate singing, you know. So that is like the funniest part or like the interesting part of Cantonese. Like when you're speaking, it's kind of like you're singing. That's why people like when they're listening to Cantonese, people usually ask me like, "Are you singing right now?" And I would say, "No, this is my language." The tone have already like intertwined in my language.
Joseph,
And
can I quickly interrupt?
yes,
Can you just quickly slowly go through those 6 tones on C again so that we can just hear
okay.
that? Yeah.
C, 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 C.
Yeah.
You know what? When you're teaching Cantonese choral music, it's not big of a deal.
Yeah.
Because when you're teaching that, the text already like reflected in the music. The tone itself is already reflected in the music. So when you're teaching like both Chinese, Cantonese, or Mandarin, when you're teaching them how to pronounce the word, I always tell this to every teachers. You can just like choose like pick a note, pick a pitch. Let's say A. You can do just like really like using one pitch and just like nail the pronunciation, nail the diction. You don't have to worry about the tone, if that makes sense. And compared to Mandarin, they only have 4 tone, which is ma, 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 ma. So it's comparatively easier in some way. And also they have the hua yin, which is the hua, which is the the ow sound that you will always hear in Mandarin. And here I would like to demonstrate using MA how that works in those 4 tones. Ma is mother. Ma, the uprising, high rising tone. And then ma is like you're falling down and then rise. And ma is like from a high to low. And that is how the tone system works. And that is like big, it's a big role when you're speaking in Mandarin and Cantonese. Like the tone system is like an important role, play an important part in the language itself. Other things that we will talk about, we're just going to like skim it through because this is getting a little bit too specific. I want to get to the juicy part, which is the music. I want to share like some sheet music that I collected, and I want to share like those translation and like where to find those music for you. I think that is more like fun for us listening to sound how they make it. But here I want to brief going through this. Like I talked to you about like those like checked tone or the unreleased consonant, which is the ending P, T, and K. Those are the Cantonese sound. And here is the demonstration using SAP, SAT, and SAK. The first one, sup. You will close the mouth, sup. Your both lips will come together. You won't say sup. Don't do that. Like no one would do that. That means wet. Sup. That is like the one that is like you are kind of like using your teeth come together. Sup. Sup. That one is like you are using the teeth and like having the airs coming through, but you are not saying sut. Don't do that. That means lost. And the last one, suck, is more like the K sound is more like in the back of your mouth, doing that like unreleased consonants, checked tone. And including like all the tones, all the vowels and vowel combinations, and 19 consonants. In Cantonese, we have 10,620 combinations of sound that you can make, which is kind of like crazy. I can see that you probably like, oh my gosh, how can I master all of this? On the other hand, Mandarin is a little bit easier. In Mandarin they only have like 21 consonants without those semi-vowels w and y. we have 39 vowels and vowel combinations. And with those 4 tones, we only have like 3,276 combinations. But if you exclude those tones, it's not that many. But there's like a very tricky part for Mandarin, which is the dental, the palatal, how to say it? Palatal.
Yeah.
Yeah, palatal and retroflex consonants, which I will demonstrate. Don't worry about it. If you, don't. It's very subtle. It's the first set, D, T, C, which is like the front of your mouth doing that, like you will involve your teeth, and then Z, C, S is more like in the middle of your mouth doing that, and then the last one, Z, Ch, Sh, R. Those are more like your tongue is like kind of like rolling up to form that sound, but Z, Ch, Sh, R. Those are the 3 sets of consonants, and sometimes this is what I encounter. This is the most difficult part to teach Chinese diction when I'm teaching like high school, middle school students how to sing a Chinese folk song, a Chinese choral music. But it's better when but the Taiwanese Chinese they do less distinguish on those 3 sets of consonants. So, and that's what I want to share. And now, that is the juicy part. Before we move to some music, is there any questions in the house? That is a very brief introductions about Chinese diction. I can go hours and hours on those because like that is like what I research, and I have a thesis about that. So if you want a diction guideline, I can send you that later. But any questions in the house by far? No questions. Oh yes, I love questions.
When in a classroom setting and when teaching this diction and how the pronunciations and the correct way to pronunciate, is there like certain drills or methods that you would go about to make it easier for students?
Well, like I said, when you are teaching the sound, you don't need to like go through the tone, because like if you're just speaking that is very hard. As I said, you can pick a pitch and then just like stick with that. Pick a pitch, for example, like, let me see if I can find something Chinese, right? Okay, here you go. So here I have like a transcripted like a IPA, Yale, pronunciation guide here. I don't know how, can you, well, let me try to see. Well, I would just say it. 去年我回来. If I put the tone in, it would be like that. But if you're teaching the kids, you don't need to do that. What you need to do is pick a tone. 的去年我回来. That is more easy. And then you take it like, of course, right now I'm very fast, like powering through it. But if you really want to like focus on how the diction work, you just need to like find a pitch and go very slow, so that they can really like experience the consonants and the vowels, which sometimes you will see some vowels that doesn't exist in English. For example, those like triphthongs. Let me find a word here. If I can find a triphthong here. Oh, fortunately, this one doesn't have triphthong here, so I'm not going to demonstrate that. But I hope that answers your questions. Good. Okay. All right. Thumbs up. I like thumbs up. Like I always ask my students when I'm teaching. I'm so glad that I at least see 3 faces of you, because when I'm teaching, I only see black monitor. And I was like, if you understand, give me a thumbs up. And usually they only have give me like 1 thumbs up. And I was like, the rest of you don't understand? Yep. And then I will have to go back again. So I'm so happy to see you all. All right, next. Okay, so this is one of the piece that I did for my Oh no, that is not working. Okay, let me stop share for a second.
Joseph, is it PowerPoint or?
Yeah, it's a PowerPoint, but it should be working because.
Sometimes you have to enable the. It says enable to edit or enable or make it an act. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, let me go out and then try it one more time. I close the PowerPoint and then let me open it one more time. Music. Sorry about that. Technical difficulties
No
that
problem.
we always encounter nowadays. Come
While we
on.
wait for him, are there any one of you that have sung any music, choir music, or even solo music in either Mandarin or Cantonese? Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, I mean it's not done often. Like I think the first time I sang was in my master's, and then we did a little bit with during my doctorate. One of the choirs did some Chinese music. Um, Mo- uh, um, Choral did.
Is it the Gao? It's in the Gao Sang Qing, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, that one.
yep.
Oh, I remember. That one, well, but that one is not written by a Chinese composer, though, you know. All the music that I'm showing you today is written by Chinese composer. Because I want to fill in that gap. Like, how can we navigate to find those music? So I will show you how to find it at the end of this presentation. But here you go. This is juicy part. Let me share this again. Here you go. Okay, here you go. So, the first composer that I want to share with you is Jenny Chow. We will listen the first half of the music. And this piece, Jenny Chow, she is resided in Boston right now, I believe. She is a Taiwanese composer. And she wrote a lot of she put a lot of new Chinese poem into music. So this is one of her work. Focus on the how they speak that. Focus on the music itself. We are at here now. So this is a good piece for high school choir because it's very repetitive. And I remember the time that I worked with one of the high school in the area, and they really like this piece because like it's repetitive. Also, like they have the very like nice accompaniment in the background, and students love it. Also, like it's very interesting with the dialogue between the bass and tenor in one point, and then like soprano and alto join in, so everyone can sing the harmony, like can sing the melody. Yes, doctor.
Uh, the poetry is do you know who the poet is? Is it originally written in this is Cantonese, right? Or Mandarin, right? And then so
This is
this is a translation, right? So the poetry is also originally in Mandarin. Okay. Yeah, I
Yes.
just wanted to ask because this is just beautiful. Like just even the poetry, not the music. Just reading that first stanza, it was yeah, it was just beautiful.
thanks. This is my culture. That's why I want to share it. Yeah, the poet. He is Cui Jimo, a new Chinese poet, kind of like poet, during the 1920 1930s
Okay.
time, and he studied abroad in British Isle for a little bit, and then go back to China. And he died at like 30 something years old on a plane crash. But his poem is very nice, and this composer, like she wrote a lot of poem based, like wrote a lot of choral music based on his poem. So I will show you others later. The next piece that I want to share with you is a Hong Kong composer, and this is called A Stranger. This poem is from a Chinese poet around 1940s area. And this is performed. Oh, I was in this performance. I was singing. So here you go. Alex Tam, Tam Tin Lok. He is the composer. He resides in Hong Kong. He's from Hong Kong. He is the APA, which is Academy of Performance Art Hong Kong choir directors. And here you go. Oh, instead of playing here, I will show you sheet music. This one, I remember. I write down show score here. Hang on, give me a second. I want to show you the score. I have it here already. And this is like um one of my graduate study work. Let me share with you. Here you go. Desktop. Can you see that?
Yes.
All right. Let me. And I will put the translation in the chat. I love this piece too. So we will keep continuing listening to this, and I can show you like how the writing is. So this piece was like written by a Hong Kong composer. It's a very nice compositions that like the piano is nice. The piano accompanist is like a very good part of it, and then the part writing is very pretty as well. And the text, I don't know if you see the text. The text is very pretty as well. Talking about like I have been chasing this like dream for life, spending my life, and it's a better piece. Like it's a good piece for like more like a community choir university. So these two are Mandarin Chinese choral music, and the next one I want to share with you, or the next two are the Cantonese choral music. The first one's called The Magical Bean Land. It was like written by a composer called Yin, and he like this piece was commissioned by Hong Kong. I can't remember. The children choir. Here you go. Hong Kong children choir, and here we go. And I would like to share the text with you. This one I think is in three part, and I remember the composer when I meet him this summer. No, not this summer. Last summer. Oh my gosh, last summer. I haven't been home for a long time. He said that this piece was specifically written like it was written in like the text was written first, the lyrics was written first, and then he put it into music. So you know, like when you're writing like music with like a text that have specific tone, it is very hard for composer already. Having like a text that with tone and putting them into choral music, so that you have to think about the harmony and how that works in between, and that's even harder. And a lot of composers, they will use like focal bowl. to make it more easy for choral writing. But this composer specifically, he used a lot of jazz influence, so that like he doesn't like really think about that for well, he take it into consideration, but he have more notes that he can pick in the harmony. So here you go, the Magical Beanland. This is in Cantonese. Oh, oh no, sorry. So the focal bowl is here. You can hear that woo sound. That's how they make it easier to write. Okay, all right. This you got the ideas. So like you can hear that like two ways for composer to like tackle that like Cantonese choral music is very hard to write, and it's just like recently started this Cantonese choral music development, and he Yin is like a pioneer of like doing this like Cantonese choral music. And some way that he tackled the problem is that like he used like kind of like a fugal section in some way. At some point he will use like focal bowl, for example, like have a melody on top, and then like the bottom is singing like some sort of like a cappella style, because like or like some of those like focal bowl. The last thing is like having the death can. You can hear those like children's choir singing the woo sound on the top, and that is how he tackled the problems. And the last piece that I want to show you, and this one have music for you to see too, and this is like one of my favorite Cantonese choral music that just come out recently, and it is called Departure. And let me click on this so that you can see. Oh, okay, I have to stop share again so that I can share this. And this is the last piece. Here you go. And this is performed by the Chinese university chorus. Oh. So here you go. So these are Cantonese choral music, Mandarin choral music that written by Chinese. And it is very hard to find on the market if you don't know where to find it. So at the end of this presentation, I would love to give you some tips. So the first thing, make sure you have like the easiest things to do is have those like friends who are in like they are from there so that they can get access to those resources. And if you end up want to choose like a Chinese choral music, finding the one who specialized in it will be able to get you to the right direction to get the score. The second way to get it is, let me open. I have couple websites for you, and I didn't include that here because like I didn't think that I will go through that. But here you go. I can let me here you go.
Joseph, so you are one of those friends now for all of us, right? That will get us into contact with the right people, right? To get
Yeah.
good. That's good to know.
So this, well, you can see the PowerPoint right here.
Yeah. Mhm.
So free ways. This website here, Hong Kong Children Choirs, they have like a song books or something that is like they have like Cantonese music, Mandarin choral music. That is a good way to get. Another one is the CU Hong Kong Chorus. They have like they just started a Cantonese choral music series. As I said, like Cantonese choral music, they just developed and they just started this. So that is the easiest way to access those Cantonese choral music. Another one is right here, Crophilia companies. They are a company based in Taiwan, and they have a lot of publication like Mandarin Chinese choral music that they have. So I will include this slide too in the slide that I presented today, and I will send it to Dr. Shepherds so that like Dr. Shepherds you can like distribute that or something. And
Nice.
if you want to sing that piece, the stranger, the one that you really like, let me know. I have the diction guideline, music, all those stuff. So thank you for having me today. And before I end the presentation, is there anyone have any question in the house?
Sure. Oh, that's my cursor. It doesn't look like that. So can I just ask before we leave, if you don't mind, can all of us just sort of turn on our cameras? And is there anyone that can take sort of a screenshot of the so that we can just share this on social media? I don't know how to take a screenshot on my office computer.
Yeah,
You
I
don't
can
have
do
to
that.
turn on your camera, but if you can, that would be great. Just quickly, just to take a screenshot. Who's going to do that? Sabin?
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay, just count us in.
Right. 3, 2, fun.
Awesome, cool. And then you can just send that to me. Since there are no questions, from my side, I would just like to personally thank you, Joseph, for coming to speak to us. I learned so much just today, and I think, like Julia mentioned in the chat, like I think I may have a new kind of obsession. I'm going to definitely explore new Cantonese and Mandarin music, and thank you for coming to talk to our student chapter here at IUP for the ACDA student chapter. You're our first official guest this year. So yeah, thank you so much. So we'll all give you sort of like a virtual or hand clap.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Do you mind if I share your email with the students at some point? Can I share your
Yeah,
email?
I have my email address at the end of the presentation. I can send the
Great.
presentation, the PowerPoint to you, and then they will have my contact
Great.
information.
Awesome.
If you have any questions about Chinese choral music, Chinese diction, or those things, or like just want some folk songs that you want to teach your future student, like middle school students, high school student, I have all those resources. This is what I'm compiling right now, creating a Chinese folk songbooks and distributing that or publishing that. I don't know what to do, but thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Well, thank you, everybody. Let's call it a night. Thank you so much. Awesome. Joseph, can I just talk to you afterwards when everybody's gone?
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy your break. Please get some rest.
Oh, enjoy your break. Yeah. I want a break.
Thank you so much. Let me stop recording. I remembered recording sort of 5 minutes late. So